Hi, Anja. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Tansy. Nice to see you again for our fireside chat, crypto fireside chat.
One day we actually need to have a fire.
Oh, in the
Yeah,
same room, in the same country, together.
that would be lovely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Today we were going to do a little bit of myth busting. So we know, I think if you're in the space, these myths about Bitcoin come up all the time. And if you're not in the space, you will definitely have heard these coming up when anyone mentions Bitcoin. You will probably think of some of these statements, which we hopefully will happily debunk as myths. But for a lot of listeners, like it might be a thought that comes up. But we're assigning them to the myth, the myth basket. Um, yeah, so I'm kind of excited. I've got the little list of myths, or little like kind of statements. So shall I read them out and then I'll kind of put it to you and then I can answer?
Yeah. And then we'll
Okay.
debunk.
Yeah, fab. Okay, so firstly, Bitcoin is only used by criminals.
That's a myth.
Nice. Are we gonna
I
say
use it. You use it. We're not criminals. I
no?
think JP Morgan now uses it. El Salvador uses it. Lugano, Switzerland uses it. I don't think these places are uh,
Criminal
full
intent.
of criminals. I'm sure there's a few scattered about.
Yeah. Like there would be with any other currency, right? Like there's if you're a
Exactly.
criminal, you can use anything that you want. So you can use cash, which is probably your best bet. Or you can still do a bit of criminal activity with fiat or traditional money. But what makes Bitcoin actually less user friendly, let's say, or less perfect for the criminal mind? Like, what is it about it that's not great if you're a criminal?
Because everything is recorded on the ledger, on the Bitcoin ledger, on the blockchain, which is the sort of the technical ledger. And so everything is recorded in perpetuity. So everyone, including, the police and, the larger like FBI, they can go and backtrack and find, you know, what what criminal activities happened, and then follow the lead to the actual criminals. And they've done quite a few arrests of people who've done scams um, with Bitcoin in particular. So, and with fiat, you don't really have that. You can have it, but you can also sneak around a lot easier because you don't have that type of ledger. Um, so it's actually easier, like you said, uh, to be a criminal, to use fiat for criminal activities
Yeah,
and get
definitely.
away with it.
Yeah,
Whereas you could use it in with Bitcoin, but not get away with it because
yeah,
people can find you.
exactly. And like if you did something a long time ago, maybe you weren't caught for it then. But the FBI have all of the time in the world to keep going through those transactions, and they've all been listed since the beginning of Bitcoin. So it may be that they could
Yeah.
target those people and find them. Because yeah, like fiat, like there isn't a coordinated global banking system. Like there's a global banking system, but there's not a coordinated ledger, like you said, where all of the banks kind of share knowledge. Like if you hopped from one banking like country jurisdiction to another, you can, stay less traceable. Um, but cash is obviously fiat. So, passing money in cash, no one can trace that. So, yes, Bitcoin is definitely not the best currency for criminals, but it certainly is not only used by criminals, which seems so hilarious when you say it out loud that you're like, wow, so many people think that. Um, because it's, yeah,
Well, I think with the media, the general media was playing that card a lot, so people absorbed that, because they kept reading it.
so,
So it's not surprising.
yeah. And actually one that's not down here, but one I want to say is like Bitcoin is only used by um hooded techies. You always see
By
like
who?
Bitcoin
Hooded
hooded
techies?
techies. You always see like the image of like the Bitcoin users with like black faces and a big hoodie. And that they're all like it's only kind of, tech-centered people who are using Bitcoin. Um,
Mm.
which myth or kind of reality?
Myth in terms of only using it. There's a lot of techies using Bitcoin, and I think they helped push it more towards get it more adopted by people like us who are not techies at all. So, but there are so many regular folks, like nice women like us, who use it, um, and who purchase it and save it. So yeah, I'm gonna bust that. I would bust that myth. Or have
Nice.
I busted that myth?
Yes, I love the bust. um, okay, Bitcoin has no value, so it's not real money. It doesn't have any kind of value as a currency. It doesn't have any value.
Well, value is a very sort of ethereal, subjective thing in a way. So, I mean, look at fiat, especially currently. It doesn't it's a value that society has agreed upon. And this, and the same with Bitcoin in a way. We've agreed upon that it has that we value it.
So with Bitcoin, there's only 21 million coins that will ever be issued. And so there is a rarity, there's a limitation. And that offers those people that believe in it, that give value to it, that gives them it's their understanding of monetary value. They see that as being valuable because it's rare. So it's just like why value is assigned to gold or jewelry or diamonds. Um, when something is perceived to be rare, people give value to it. And so Bitcoin has been given that value by certain people. And now you can't really say that it has no value because a single Bitcoin is around $20,000 dollars at the time of recording this. And
Yeah.
so a Bitcoin has value. If you had a Bitcoin and you were to sell it, you would get $20,000 for that Bitcoin. So it's a complete myth to say it doesn't have any value because it literally can be exchanged for fiat. If you consider fiat to be valuable, then Bitcoin is also valuable.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for me, it's a little tricky to wrap my head around it because it is all sort of abstract. I mean, having this thing that itself has no value, but it starts having value once you have agreed upon it and you're exchanging it. Um, and it's just something we don't really think about on day-to-day life. We just accept, let's say, fiat as is, and it's just a matter of now moving beyond fiat, let's say US dollar, and starting to accept that, have that same kind of acceptance and understanding of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but specifically Bitcoin.
Yeah. And what I would add is that you don't need everyone to agree that something is valuable for it to be valuable, right? So some people
Hmm.
think artwork is incredibly valuable. When that's totally
Right.
subjective, some people will not think it's valuable at all, and other people will. So just because some people don't think it's valuable, that doesn't mean it's not. If someone is willing to pay money for something, that gives it value because that person is assigning it value. And one
Yeah.
person can control the kind of value of something if they're willing to put a lot of money towards it. So when you have a collective group, it doesn't matter if another group doesn't agree in the value. If this group does, it's assigned value because it is subjective, and we get to choose where we place our value, and what we consider to be valuable.
Thank you for that. That helps me understand it better. But yeah, but that's why we're here, to chat about these sort of big picture kind of challenging new novel directions that we're all going in. And it's exciting.
It's really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel excited every day, like more and more about Bitcoin. Like I think it's so interesting how you sometimes like you may meet resistances where you hear something like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about Bitcoin. And it takes you on a little rabbit hole. And then you kind of go deep and it just opens up even more. And I'm just on this consistent riding wave where I'm just feeling like more and more enamored by Bitcoin. And I can't believe that, um, a space like this can kind of keep inspiring, like with new material, with new information all the time. Because it's never static, because you've got Bitcoin Lightning Network, you've got stable coins, you've got from moving away from kind of the Bitcoin-ish space, but you've also got NFTs and other cryptocurrencies. And whether you agree with those or not, again, value is subjective. Some people will assign a lot of value to NFTs, some people won't. Are they valuable? To some people, yes. So yes, they have value. Um, but it's so important to kind of bring everything in so we have an understanding of it all. I think that's what's really important, is not to kind of discard the things you don't want to know about, but to actually embrace them, to really understand and learn about everything. So you have a really good holistic picture. And I feel like being in this space is just constantly, yeah, people are doing such fascinating things. It's just constantly building and evolving. It's gorgeous. Okay, so we've covered this before in another video, but Bitcoin is bad for the environment.
No, I would say that's a myth we can bust in terms of um, itself being bad. It uses energy. And so it's more about the energy system we find ourselves in, that we have created and that we still haven't evolved out of into a cleaner energy system. So it's more that, I mean, for me, Bitcoin is using energy, the proof of work, which is essential for its beauty and its power and its safety. So I would say no. It's the
Yes,
energy issue, our own energy issue, and not to use Bitcoin as a scapegoat. What say you?
beautiful. What a great answer. Love it. Ditto. Yeah, I mean, I'd say exactly the same thing. Like Bitcoin itself is not harming the environment. It literally just consumes electricity. So it's the source of the electricity that is important. So that's where we need to look. And 50% of all of the sources of the electricity that Bitcoin uses is coming from renewable energy sources. And so, it's like, is it bad for is it bad for the environment? No. Is where it gets the energy from kind of important? Yes. Does electricity intrinsically harm the environment? No. Does how you produce electricity harm the environment? Yes. So you kind of have to go back, but it's not actually Bitcoin itself. So just like you said, if we can sort out the way that electricity is produced to become more renewable or more efficient, then there is no problem. It is, Bitcoin itself is actually like, the miners are trying to go and find more sustainable sources, but they're also doing what they can to invest in more renewable ways of producing electricity, and really quickening that process. So in many ways, they are kind of doing good for the manufacturing of electricity in a cleaner way.
Okay, I think we debunked that myth.
Yes. Uh, is Bitcoin a scam?
No, it's really real. It makes me think, well, what does it mean, a scam? What is the definition of scam?
Yeah.
I have maybe a sense of it, a reaction immediately, and I would say no, but I don't really know what what's the definition of scam.
So the definition of a scam is a deceptive scheme to cheat someone out of something, especially out of money.
Definitely not a scam. It's not cheating. It's offering you it's offering you financial freedom. So it's doing exactly the opposite of a scam.
Yeah.
It's not taking away, it's offering you this opportunity to be financially free.
Yeah. And who is the scammer? Who would be the deceptive party? Because it's an open source um, like protocol that basically just operates without the need for control, or like certainly not centralized control. But who is behind Bitcoin? There is nobody who is the scammer, right? It's a decentralized protocol. The technology is open source. Everybody can see the underlying principles of what the technology is. That's something you can ask the next person who says it's a scam. It's like, well, who's scamming you? Who is that person? Now, the place where you could have a scam is with the place you hold Bitcoin, right? So, where like the wallet or the exchange. So, you need to make sure that you are, there is a certain amount of security that you need to go through. Just like with anything else, you're holding your money. There are definitely people out there who want to get your money, whether that be cash, whether that be fiat, whether that be your gold. It's like there are nefarious actors in the world. So just like you do with any of your other things, you need to protect your money. So you just need to make sure that you're holding it somewhere safely. And to do that, it's important to find out about wallets, like unhosted wallets that you can hold it in. And I like to use Ledger. So, there are wallets that are, safe and secure, and where you hold the keys to your Bitcoin. But that, like the actual Bitcoin itself, is a commodity. It's just Bitcoin. There's no one trying to scam you. Yeah, like I know I was just going to agree with what you said about like what are they trying to take away from you? Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
someone trying to cheat you out of something. It's like, what is the something that I'm being cheated out of? Because I'm actually getting Bitcoin, which is a massive benefit. So
Yeah.
yeah, whoever's doing that to me, then I'm grateful. I'm getting the better deal on this one. I get to give up my scammy fiat for Bitcoin. So I'm winning. I'm winning. Yes. So myth debunked. Uh, Bitcoin is a fad.
No, it is not a fad. It's here to stay. Um, and it's being every year more and more and more and more adopted. And especially now when you see all these banks, larger institutions buying Bitcoin up. I think they've been really busy in 2022 buying up Bitcoin. So I would say no.
And you have whole countries adopting it, right, as a legitimate form of currency, such as El Salvador. You've got whole cities like Lugano in Switzerland that are, allowing you to pay for taxes in Bitcoin. And it's being kind of run through with MasterCard. Like MasterCard are, starting to adopt Bitcoin, or the use of Bitcoin. So it's the opposite of a fad. It's a growing technology. And, everybody said that about computers and the internet and emails, that they were a fad. And look where they've come. And
And
yeah.
portable phones. Remember we used to use those little dial phones? Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in the States, there's at least two or three states in the United States where you can pay your taxes with Bitcoin. And I think it's still true that a couple mayors are being paid. At least that was in the news uh, in Bitcoin, the New York mayor and the mayor of Miami. So it's being adopted, and it's not just the techies. It's not just innocent women like we, like us. It's also major institutions and countries and cities and states. So it's not going away.
No,
Myth debunked.
no. Okay, well, I also have, yeah, I mean, the last one, I don't know if I will, it's a little bit, I kind of just wrote it down because it's like what a lot of people are talking about. But this one is the myth, or the statement that it's only like the far right or the alt-right or the extreme conservatives and Republicans that are into Bitcoin. So it's like a very much like political right technology.
Personally, like being in the environmental field, um, environmentalists, like the people I know, tend to be anti crypto. Um, and so they're, I guess you would consider them more left, the environmentalists. And yeah, so, and it does seem like I've heard, but I haven't done any research on this, but it does seem sort of the stereotype, like you say, the right is more into it. Um, but that's not necessarily true either. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know. This is a tough question because sort of, you fall into pigeonholing people into these buckets, and that always drives me nuts because
Right.
I find it not useful and detrimental to when you're trying to understand something.
It's apolitical. There
It's
is no,
apolitical.
it doesn't have a political face. There are people from all sides of the aisle. It's a matter of personal um you know understanding or personal desire for self-empowerment over one's money, over one's property. And that is neither right, left, black, white, everything in between. There is no definition or characteristic of the type of person that is into Bitcoin. And having a definition like that is restricting, is trying to kind of divide on a political scale when there is no political scale there. And you can see the opposition of like, okay, well, in the UK, most of the boomers are more on the right side, that kind of the,
Mhm.
maybe even like the white middle class man is more on the right. But then you have, the Greens tend to be more on the left. Well, neither of those people are that positive about Bitcoin. So I have no idea where you want us to sit. Like, you're not going to persuade either one of those at this point. So, it's sitting in the center. There is no political affiliation. And I think that's key to kind of debunk that myth that it has any political affiliation. Because I think there are certain people who are trying to push an agenda that supports theirs.
Yeah, and it makes me think that's so that's like sort of the epitome of real community, is that you're not allowing these sort of fake buckets of, you're here, I'm there. Nobody cares. We're all trying to work in the space and learn from each other, support each other, develop with each other. So it's actually like much more of a real community than you see, um, especially in the political communities. Um, yeah, myth busted.
So, can you think of any more myths we haven't covered anymore, or like statements that you've heard that you want to bust? What is like the most common thing that people might say to you when it comes to Bitcoin?
I think the main thing I come across is just not understanding it, what it is, and that it isn't money, it's fake. It's not money. And so it always comes back to, well, what is money and what is fiat? And do you really trust and believe in that? I mean, most people think the myth there is many people, I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of people, at least in the US, are believing that it's still backed by gold, or they have that sense, that because this is what we were raised to believe, in the school system. Um,
Yeah, I love that. Like you can just
so
turn it around, right? So it's like, you know, Bitcoin is a scam. Well, what money do you use? Is your money a scam? Is it just debt? Is it just built on
Full of
credit?
inflation and money printing and all this scammy behavior.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I learned, as I started understanding Bitcoin and crypto, that's when I started understanding the current fiat system that we're living under, because I just never thought about it. It just never came in, but Bitcoin sort of forces you to really realize the situation we're in. Um, so it's just a great learning tool, um, learning guide. It's like this little coin that takes you by the hand and guides you through all this knowledge and learning and opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, in like a bright and powerful and empowering way. Like the people's voices that you
Mhm.
hear in the space that you're learning a lot from, like, there's a kind of upbeatness, a willingness to kind of to support the learning of complex technology. And it's really, yeah, everyone is supporting one another in that process. Because it is a big leap to make from moving from, what we're used to a completely new system of money. Um, and or a completely new commodity, a new commodity that holds value. But that leap is made so much easier when you are given a mirror, like you're kind of given a mirror to see around you of what the monetary system is that you believe
Mhm.
in, that you don't even think about. And you're like, oh, what is that Bitcoin over there? Well, it's like Bitcoin gives you, that shiny coin is like a mirror to like actually look behind you. Like, what is the
Yeah.
system that you are living in? And you suddenly realize that it's basically, a tower of cards. It's basically this crumbling, you know it's a system where your money is constantly being devalued, where some people have the ability to just literally kind of print money, create debt, and there's other people who are working incredibly hard just to kind of scrape together like a tiny bit of that money. And like the inequality is so intense and extreme. But because we're not looking around, we're not seeing that illusion of what is being created. And suddenly Bitcoin doesn't even really need to do anything. It just needs to show you the mirror. And then you're like, oh my God, anything else? And it's like, I'm here. I'll help you. Mm, fab. Great.
I
Well,
like busting myths with you. That was fun.
that was fun. Alrighty. So if anyone is loving the channel, then please do like and subscribe.
Hit the bell button and click all.
And then you'll get all of our new videos that come up, which will be every Sunday. And we're so grateful, or I know I
Mm,
am, to be able to,
yeah.
sharing the space with Anja, but to be, giving out these videos and just to be present here each week. And yeah, I'm having a really great time, and I hope that everyone who's watching is too. And if there's any topics that you would love us to explore, talk about,
Mm.
or of anyone who wants to come on the show, then please do get in touch with us. You can you can send an email to info@thecryptoethic.com, but all the details are below.
Yeah, it's I have so much fun, and I learn with all our conversations. It's sort of I either learn something new or it sort of solidifies something um in terms of the crypto space. And I just like seeing your smile.
Oh, thank you.
So I hope other folks enjoy our not banter, our conversation.
Yeah, me too.
And we look forward to like Tansy said, maybe answering some of your questions if you have a topic theme that you want us to discuss, or if you want to come and play with us on YouTube, that would be really cool too.
So thank you, Anya, for this gorgeous conversation, and we
Yeah.
shall see each other next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can't wait.